am Luther Olmon, and I invite you to hear and to see a story. It's the story of Meals on Wheels of West Los Angeles. It is the story of people in a partnership doing many different things. Some of the people are survivors. That is, for some reason, they have been unable to prepare their own meals. Other persons are together in the University Religious Conference, one of the oldest interfaith organizations in Los Angeles. Another member of the partnership is the great university, UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles. And there are those people who contribute their time and their money to support this organization. And also there are a host of volunteers who make it all possible. I have before me the Meals on Wheels brochure, and I would like to read to you just what the purpose is. Meals on Wheels is dedicated to the following: helping the disabled, aged, and chronically or temporarily ill, providing nourishing food at a nominal cost during time of need, assuring a friendly interest and a helping hand so that people can remain self-sufficient in their own homes. This service is for all persons who may benefit from it regardless of income. In studio, we have representatives of the Meals on Wheels program of West LA, and I'd like to introduce to you the director, Carressa, Carlstedt. Carressa, it's good that we can talk once again about Meals on Wheels, and I know you're vitally interested in it. What does a director do?
Well, that's a big question, actually. What I do is something of a juggling act, Luther. I coordinate the hospital, the clients who receive the meals, and the volunteers. I work with the doctors' offices, the doctors who refer their patients to us. I work with the families of the clients. I work with the board of directors, which gives me guidance as far as how to run the program. I guess basically what I see my job is bringing people together. Mm-hmm. I think we live in a world where people often feel very alienated. There's a lot of fear on the part of a lot of people, not only the clients, but the volunteers as well. And this is an organization where people can come together person to person. They can actually relate to each other on an individual basis. And that makes it very meaningful for me.
It sounds like you do a balancing act between keeping it all together so it works and functions properly. Who are the clients? Tell me something about the clients.
The clients are wonderful people to work with for the most part. You get a complainer now and then, but that's very normal. That people do need to call up occasionally and say, they keep sending me milk and I told them I didn't want any milk, or they give me fish and I didn't want the fish. Mm-hmm.
But then you also have some volunteers who meet the clients as well.
Right, they do. Let me tell you more about the clients. They range in age from, well, we've delivered to people in their 20s. One young woman who was suffering from MS, who was no longer able to get out to cook her food, was living in an apartment near the campus. A real labyrinth of an apartment. It was difficult just for the healthy volunteers to get in and out, much less for her in her wheelchair. So we brought her food. The majority of the people are elderly. Mm-hmm. They're people who, without this service, probably wouldn't be able to stay in their own home.
I think it would be helpful at this time if we showed the tape, which will take you right into the action. And may we have the tape? And the tape will be narrated by one of the founders, Libby Stern.
And I was one of the founders of Meals on Wheels of West Los Angeles. This is an organization that will be celebrating its 10th birthday this fall. It was not originated, it was not founded totally here in West Los Angeles, but had its roots in England after the Second World War. As you might imagine, at that time, there were many people that were uprooted and separated from their families, lonely, in poor housing, and under difficult circumstances. The elderly were in particular need. The sick were also at risk, and they were the ones for whom Meals on Wheels was started. From England, it spread across the United States, and our particular branch had its beginnings in Santa Monica, where Meals on Wheels was started under the West Side Ecumenical Conference. Calls came in there for help from West Los Angeles. Who was to deliver in this part of the city? This vast city of Los Angeles was only being served at that time by Santa Monica, by Culver Palms, and there was a Kosher Meals in the Fairfax area. So what to do? You look at the map, and what do you see in the middle of this area? You see UCLA and you see the University Religious Conference, both institutions who are concerned not just with themselves but with the community. So knowing this and realizing their interest, we went first to the University Religious Conference to see if they would be willing to add another program group to their number. Luther Olmon at that time was not only the chairman of the cabinet, but he was also the chairman of the board of directors. They seemed to look kindly and with interest on this endeavor, and so with this support, we then went to UCLA, and at that time Dr. Baldwin Lamson was the director of hospitals and clinics, and luckily for us, Mr. William Brown had just come from Oakland to UCLA to be the director of the kitchens. Now, Mr. Brown had been involved with Meals on Wheels in Oakland and understood the importance of this kind of program. So with his enthusiasm, the support of the hospital, Sue Clayton, who is still today the Director of Nutrition Services, we were able to begin to plan a program. The day starts very early in the kitchens. All of the vegetables, all of the food that is prepared is fresh that day, and it has to be gotten ready and brought into the area where Helen will serve up the special diets and the regular diets for our particular clients. UCLA is wonderful about taking their individual tastes into consideration. They're capable, because of being a hospital kitchen, of doing the special diets. Here is Helen now serving the carrots, the stew, the potatoes, and then meticulously putting those lids of that particular client on each dish so that there is no confusion of special diets and regular diets. They will have their hot meal, they will have bread and butter, they will have milk, there will be special containers for their cold supper. Each of these is carefully loaded into that particular hot box and stacked in the hot boxes so that the clients that are delivered to first have their meals at the open end of the box, and those that you see being put in toward the rear are those that will be the last clients to be delivered to. Now, these hot boxes have been plugged into the electricity at UCLA in the morning so that when the meals are put in, those boxes are hot and are able to maintain their temperature while they are being delivered to the clients. Now, we don't just decide we'll send out a roast beef meal or a fish meal. First, each client is interviewed and their particular need is taken into consideration. Their doctor sends us a specific diet request for them, and this is then passed on to the kitchen, to Sue Clayton, and then directly to Mamie Kendall and her staff, who actually serve up the individual trays and meals for each client. Each client's name is labeled on their boxes, on their paper bags, so that there will be no confusion at the time of delivery. Then we have the cold chest. Into the cold chest, as you can see, are white paper bags and brown. The white are the additions to the hot lunch, and they consist of milk, bread and butter, and dessert. In the brown bag, which is the cold supper bag, they have a most wonderful salad, tasty sandwich, apple or some fresh fruit, and milk. These represent the 2/3 nutritional requirements for each day for each client. You can see that the volunteer cars back into the loading dock, and each car then gets its hot box and its cold chest. There we're very fortunate in having Carmen Moore, who helps to load these heavy boxes into the cars of the volunteers. and with their route book in hand and their baskets that have been prepared in the office ahead of time, off they go to deliver to their 12 to 14 clients per route.
Meals on Wheels.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
How are we today?
Fine. How are you?
Oh, pretty well, thank you.
That's
Do
good.
come in.
Hello, Miss Cheney. Good to see you this morning.
Oh,
Here's your Meals on Wheels.
welcome. That's nice to see you.
There's your hot
Oh,
food.
well, that's just marvelous. Thank
And
you.
this thing is your
Nice and hot.
sandwich and supper
Yes, oh, yes.
and
that's
salad
my
and milk.
supper. Thank
I'll
you.
put it in the
That's
refrigerator for you.
Thank you very, very much.
Oh, here is
Is it-
the Westlake Girls School.
Well,
Sent those to
isn't
everyone
that sweet? They
today.
always send some nice little
They're
things.
thoughtful.
Yes, the children are so nice too. Everybody is nice. That's very, very nice. Thank you.
Mrs. Cheney, how long have you been getting Meals on Wheels?
From the time it started, and I think that would be close to, I said 8 to 9
Oh,
years,
really?
every bit of it.
Oh,
Yes,
well, I've only been working for 3, but that's a record.
yeah, that's it, yes.
And so what is your reason for getting them?
Because I am unable to prepare the meals
Oh, of
for
course.
myself.
That makes a
yes.
difference then. You
That
can
is,
stay in your
oh,
home.
definitely. And not only that, I have the contact from the volunteers
Oh,
to the
yes,
people that
well.
bring the food, which it would not be possible otherwise because I'm a shut-in.
Well, that is a pleasure then.
Yeah.
Are you happy with the meals?
Very, very, very much so,
And you
yes.
mentioned this before, I guess you're happy with the volunteers then.
Very, yes, you have no idea
Oh.
because they are very helpful and there's hardly anything that they wouldn't do
Oh,
for you.
I'm glad
In the
to
event
hear
of
that.
emergency,
Yes.
they are all there. It's marvelous.
Oh.
It's a marvelous thing. That's all
Well,
I
it
can.
makes us happy to do it.
Yes, it
And
is.
if you didn't have it,
Yeah.
the service, what would you do?
Well, I certainly would not want to, would be forced. I cannot say anything else for to go to a rest home, and that is a thing I do not
I
want.
understand.
I would just simply perish,
Yeah.
that's all.
Well, I'm so glad that you could have this.
Yes.
then.
And it's a godsend, that's all I can say.
Well, it makes us happy too.
It's a godsend, and I mean that from every point of view. I mean that very much so.
Well, thank you. It's nice
Yes.
to hear it expressed so beautifully too.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
And let me say, it's this visit to the clients that means so much. Not just the food that's brought in, but this personal contact. They get to know the volunteers. They look forward to this visit. They may be the only people who they see during the day. This may be their one contact of the client with the outside world. And this, plus the food, is a very reassuring, warming thing that Meals on Wheels is able to do for each of the clients. They'll pass the time of day and then they will say goodbye, and the client knows that tomorrow, the next day, someone once again will come to see them and to be sure that they are all right and all is well in the world. Their day is ended, and we now are most grateful to all of those volunteers who do the delivering. Some 130 volunteers help out in this way. And all of this is possible only through the help of the community and the churches and civic organizations. Meals on Wheels of West Los Angeles receives no governmental funding of any type. We've been able to do this solely on our own as a nonprofit organization. This is the end of the day for Meals on Wheels in West Los Angeles. We're glad that you joined us, and do come and visit. Thank you.
I trust that you found the film with Meals on Wheels as helpful as I did. It certainly brings it close to home. Carressa, can you tell me just a bit more about the clients, some of the variety of persons that you have as clients?
Well, a common misconception, Luther, is that everyone who receives Meals on Wheels has to be at the poverty level. And it's true that we do have people who cannot afford to pay the full cost of the meals. We have money that's donated from the community to help them pay for the meals. But being poor is not a requirement. You can have Meals on Wheels even if you have money.
So some may pay, and there are
There are.
resources for those who cannot.
Yes, there are. Yes, there are.
Anything else about the tape that you might want to mention? I know we'll talk about the volunteers in a minute or two, but is
Right.
there...
I especially like the fact that they showed the badges on the bulletin board with the stars on them, because those stars are very important. Each star indicates a year of service delivering meals, and we have approximately 20 people who have 10 stars on their badges, and that means they've been delivering for the whole 10 years that our program has existed.
So it's about time to celebrate, isn't it?
Yes,
The
it is. It certainly
10th
is.
year celebration. There's much we could talk about in terms of what really goes on behind the scenes, Carressa. Why does it continue? What makes it keep going?
It keeps going because the community is behind it in terms of volunteer hours and in terms of dollars. They support it. They want to show the senior citizens and other people who can't get out that they care. It's a way of showing that concern.
The opportunity to participate in Meals on Wheels is just not for a few, but all of us can participate in one way or another. We're going to take a break for a few moments, and we'll be back with some of the volunteers, another tape on more of the story, Meals on Wheels of West LA. Welcome back to our story of Meals on Wheels of West LA. We've tried to inform you about the organization, how it got started, where the food is prepared and how it's delivered, and also the clients. We've talked about the clients, and there's one quote that I'd like to have you hear. "Not a charity," says the client. "I pay a reasonable amount for the service so I can remain self-sufficient in my own home." We'd also like to talk about the volunteers that make this program possible. And we also have a volunteer who has been around some time, and her name is Gretchen Jeffrey. Gretchen, what's it like to have been a volunteer for these number of years?
Well, it's been great, and I became interested in volunteering for Meals on Wheels, first of all, because Libby Stern asked me to help her when she was organizing the group, because I live in West LA and I knew the area. And after serving as a deacon for many, many years in my church, I learned to respect and appreciate the needs of shut-in people that I had visited as a deacon. And I know how disoriented some, especially elderly people, who become when they need to leave their homes. So that I was interested in becoming a volunteer to help them maintain their own residence in their own surroundings.
I know that you've been helpful in many ways. As a retired public health nurse, you've been able to be supportive of the organization by doing the interviewing work. You've been a board member and a volunteer in the delivery system. These are all important parts. What do you see as the future of Meals on Wheels of West LA?
Well, I feel the need for other areas, in areas where it is not covered and where we get calls and cannot fill the needs of those people. And I think that eventually every neighborhood will take the responsibility, which is great, in raising funds and providing volunteers. It's a lot of work, but it is so important, and it's really a very valuable experience for volunteers.
Gretchen, you're a remarkable person in many ways. I know that you've told me your age, which means that a lot of people much younger than you are volunteering and are the recipients of Meals on Wheels. How old are you, Gretchen?
I will be 91 in 1 month, on August the 13th. And that reminds me of a story that Carressa reminded me of. She gave me a history to take. We need to go out to verify the need of these people for the meal. And she asked me to do an intake history. And when I went out to see this woman, I asked her why she needed the meals. And she said, well, I'm 82 years old. And I said, well, that really isn't a valid reason, because I was 89, and I'm 89, and I bring the meals to you. Very good.
Carressa, you've known Gretchen a long time, but you've known lots of other volunteers. What do you have to say as the director of this great program?
The volunteers are what makes my job so much fun. I really love the people that I work with. There are people, well, there aren't very many like Gretchen, but there are older volunteers. There are younger volunteers too. We have children as young as 9 and 10 who go out with grandma or with their mom to help deliver the meals. It's a very nice contact between the generations.
And it's both men and women who are involved.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
About how many can you serve in terms of a daily program?
Our particular program can handle up to 60 people a day, but we're really hoping to expand that. You asked about the future. I think the future is that there's going to be more need for this kind of service.
Which suggests there could be need for more volunteers.
Absolutely, yes. The segment of the population that's over 65 is the fastest growing segment that we have. The number of people is increasing dramatically.
Do you find it difficult to find volunteers, or where do you go for a resource for volunteers?
Our best source of volunteers is people like Gretchen. Gretchen just ropes them in. Word of mouth. If a friend tells you that they've done it and they enjoy doing it, and maybe they bring you along the first time to deliver the meals, that's the very best way to get a volunteer.
About the territory of Meals on Wheels. Now, I know you drive, Gretchen, and do you drive all over Los Angeles, or?
Not only Los Angeles, all over.
What's the territory of Meals on Wheels in West LA?
Well, from Olympic to Sunset, and from Beverly Hills to
Santa Monica.
Brentwood?
Santa Monica.
Santa Monica.
One thing that I've noticed about Meals on Wheels is the variety of kinds of volunteers it brings together. People from different experiences in life and different kind of professions. Some are retired, some are not. So it's a great meeting place, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And when I find a friend who's bored, I just invite her to come with me one day. After that, she's hooked.
It's true.
Well, the story could go on about Meals on Wheels, but maybe we suggest, I should ask this question: what can we do to help, or what would be helpful? Carressa, I know you have a board of directors that you're responsible to. There are members who serve that. You have volunteers in a variety of ways, other than those who are just taking the meals. What do you consider helpful?
Everything is done by volunteers. I'm the only person who is paid for working for Meals on Wheels. It's all done by the volunteers. So that's basically what we need.
We have a little closing tape just to let you realize that the volunteers can celebrate and have fun. And I think you need to see that tape to realize it is an exciting experience. And then we will remind ourselves that Meals on Wheels, if you have any questions or any further information that you need to know, I will be glad to help you in any way we can. But let's have that tape. We hope you've enjoyed this informative chat with our friends here on Meals on Wheels, that you've gotten something out of the tapes that we have shown you. And we hope that we have created a further interest for you in terms of Meals on Wheels of West LA. If you have further questions, as I said before, feel free to call our office and learn more about Meals on Wheels. Perhaps you have a need in your community. Maybe we can help you along that line. But Meals on Wheels of West LA is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year, and we congratulate all the people who make this possible. And we look forward to seeing you again sometime to continue our story of Meals on Wheels of West LA. And thank you so much, Gretchen and Carressa, and all of the volunteers who make this in our studio for making this information period possible.